I feel like magical creatures should be real. Kim here, and I will be giving you 5 of the very best magical, mystical, mythical, fantasy creatures. That's a mouthful. As an avid fantasy reader and paranormal horror, that's a new book genre. As a writer of paranormal horror, whatever, and as a reader of fantasy, I definitely have my favorite fantasy type creatures, and I just wanted to talk about them because, well, because I always want to talk about them. If you're new here, welcome to this. You may want to consider subscribing. We talk about the important things, like dragons. I just finished reading a fantasy book about dragons, and I'm going to be doing some writing this week, which led me to reflect on my favorite sort of magical creatures, which obviously leads to a video about it. That's how we roll here. Number 5, vampires. They count as magical fantasy creatures. Yeah, monsters count. They count as a monster. It counts! I like vampires for a few reasons, none of them being Twilight. Not that that's bad, mind you. Twilight's a mighty fine reason to like vampires, I'll say it. Good for you! I actually legitimately fell in love with vampires when I read Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. The movie was fine, I really liked the movie, but there was something about Lestat specifically in the book series that is so alluring, dramatic, highly stylized, pretty sexy. Okay, like I love the vampire Lestat. That's one reason. I just absolutely love everything about that book character and just everything that he sort of represents with this lust for things and just his view of humanity and just all of these things that make Lestat such a really cool literary character whom I will always love. Always the love. Vampires are also very special to me personally, simply because of Ruthie. If you haven't seen Ruthie on this channel, she appears often, especially in my vlog type videos. She's my niece and we are buddies. We understand one another on a level that just nobody else can even wrap their brain around. Here's the thing about Ruthie. She claims to be a vampire. She's 5. She's actually been claiming to be a vampire since she was about 3.5 years old, if I remember right. She's a little tiny vampire and she's very proud of it and she is fine with it, and frankly so am I. She will like hiss at the sun and she will cower from it and she'll say, oh well, I'm like that because I'm a vampire. I love that about her. I love that she has this like sort of dark, creepy side to her. That kid's my favorite. Ruthie decided that her and I are only part vampire because when she was born and I cut her umbilical cord, yes, I got to cut her umbilical cord. That child is partially mine. I passed on some of my vampireness to her, and therefore both of us are only part vampire, so we can still go into the sun, we just really don't like it. That's her theory. This is the 5-year-old's theory on her and I being vampires. So if you think I'm not going to always love vampires, you'd be so wrong. They're just seared into my heart for both the vampire Lestat and because Ruthie and I are just vampires, and how can you not love your own kind? Number 4, mermaids. There is one main reason that I really love mermaids. Up where they walk, up where they run. It should not be hard to figure out, being as I am a girl and a classic 90s kid. Up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Any 90s girl is totally going to love mermaids, and you all know why. Wish I could be part of that world. The Little Mermaid was the first like free spirit character that I ever came across. I'd seen other Disney princesses, Snow White, Cinderella, Aurora. They're wonderful, great role models, kind, generous, strong women. But Ariel had just a spirit of adventure that every kid can relate to. I will tell you that she kind of lacks the qualities of real mermaids. However, I will always have a deep affection for Ariel because of what she taught me as a child, which was to follow your heart and to know what you want and to not be afraid to go after it. Basically, she told me, if you're not happy with your life, go change it. You find that sea witch and give up your voice and you find that prince. As a grown-up person, I fully acknowledge that her choices were irrational. However, as a child, it is empowering to see a young woman take control of her life. That's what it's really about. And the music is amazing. There's also that. So while real mermaids are quite vicious and kind of liars and try to kill sailors and things, they still have that sort of curious nature and the love of the ocean. And while their hearts are very cold, I feel like they're sort of realistic in their sense of, I know what I want, I'm going to get it, and oh well to the rest of you. I know a lot of human people like that. So while Ariel is not a great representation of actual mermaids, I still love her and I think she's amazing. And I think the actual folklore behind real mermaids is cool too, because I like this idea of them luring sailors to the depths of the ocean just because they want them. There's something a little bit cool about that. Number 3, unicorns. Yeah, I'm a girl and I love unicorns. I really like the idea of unicorns. I like this idea of this pure, majestic, innocent, magical beast that roams the forest and protects the forest and is sought after and mysterious, and you don't know that much about her, but she's beautiful and magnificent and just so untouchable. And I think that that's kind of what makes unicorns so neat, is they're rare and they're beautiful and they're sought after, but at the same time, what would you do if you caught one? Like, it's not like they're gonna grant wishes and things like that. They just have such a cool, like, pure magic to them that I love so much. I just think that they are neat. I'm getting a really huge sense of deja vu right now. It's not going away. There it goes. That was like super freaky weird. Maybe a unicorn just walked by my window. Things are getting weird here. So yes, I love unicorns. I'm also a really big fan of The Last Unicorn, both the movie and the book. I have a signed copy of the book by Peter S. Beagle, so there's that. I think that that really plays a big part in my love of unicorns because I really love that story. An awesome fantasy book that is so classic and so wonderful and so adventurous and so epic. It's just magical. There's a wizard and a unicorn and the evil king, and it just like is kind of cliche, but in the best way. That makes sense. So I will love unicorns because of what they represent in their magic and in their innocent protecting of the forest. And I love The Last Unicorn because that was just such a magnificent, lovely, magical, whimsical, beautiful story. Number 2, dragons. Truthfully, dragons are tied for the number 1 spot right now, but I put number 1 at number 1 because simply the history, and we'll get to that in a minute. But dragons just really mean a lot to me, especially right now. I recently had this weird epiphany, and we'll get to that in a second. I just have to say that dragons are amazing. Everything about a dragon is cool. Just this idea of ancient knowledge, and they're these giant sort of beast things that are actually gentle creatures most of the time. And they can breathe fire and or ice or whatever it is. There's so many different kinds and colors and just so many different ideas and story arcs and theories and things behind dragons, and just the different representations of them depending on what you're reading or watching. I just love everything about them. I love the fierceness that comes with them, dragon rationale and things like that. I love the strength that comes with a dragon. There's just so, it just is so good, so good. As I said, I recently had this epiphany about my creative life and a dragon, and it kind of like manifested into this like inner dragon that I am now embracing. It's this like imaginative, creative dragon that I have to feed with work and hustle and dedication and commitment, basically so that the dragon can grow and the dragon can breathe the fire and the dragon can soar. Feed the dragon so that the dragon can do the magical things. So it became this thing where it's like you have a dragon inside you. Feed it. Magical things will happen. Yeah. Nothing bad can happen when you have a dragon. I am a dragon. And my number one magical creature, fairies. As I mentioned, fairies are kind of tied for the number one spot with dragons because I had the recent epiphany dragon identity. But I gave fairies the number one spot simply because of the history I have with them. Okay, so here's the thing. Fairies and I go way, way back. I really respect and admire and love learning about the fae and the idea of the fairy world. And I'm not talking like Tinkerbell pixies, I'm talking like ancient Celtic fae. The pagan idea of the other world that is integrated in ours that are the fae. I love them. I love the really pretty, like, delicate, angelic looking sort of fae, and I also love the, like, gnarled and wooded, horned, sort of beastly looking creatures as well. Like, I love all of them so much, and I love the idea of their mischievousness and their trickery and their, like, just sort of like different things that they do and that they like to do. And I also like the different ways you can work with or against their world, like certain little things like leaving out a dish of honey for the fairies and putting your shoes facing the right direction, certain rocks that they don't like to either encourage or repel them, and all these sorts of little things that I think are so freaking cool. I just feel like they're a little bit a part of me. I have been like an admirer of the fae for decades, with an S, more than one decade. I just love them. I feel like we understand one another, and while they fully recognize that I am not a fairy, I feel like they kind of get me and I kind of get them. And while I fully acknowledge that I sound like a total crazy person, I don't even care. This is just part of my life, and the fairies are just a part of me. I'm just like a fairy friend. I'm a little fairy ally, and I really, honestly, truly believe that they are there and they are an integral part of our world. While people may want to have me committed for having such thoughts, I will not abandon those thoughts because some days they are the only thoughts that keep me going. You guys knew that I was a legitimately crazy person though. I mean, I'm a writer. I honestly, truly cannot live in a world where these sorts of magical things just do not exist. Does not compute. So those are my top 5 magical creatures. Yes, I'm a legitimate crazy person. And yes, I also don't care. Honestly, you probably wouldn't still be here if I wasn't a little crazy. You like it. Consider subscribing to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. I may be crazy, but at least I'm self-aware. Feel free to share this video with those who are as insane as I am. I like having friends. Thanks for watching.